citizen.
Out of many
We are world citizens, same vision is for equal rights and justice for the people them. What's happening to this beautiful world that we're living in? World citizen, lift up your voices.
Welcome to another episode of the People Powered Planet podcast, where each week we bring you amazing solutionaries, people who are working not on just all the awful things that are happening in the world, but how do we rise above them? How do we create the vision of the future we want and move in that direction? And today we have two extraordinary visionaries. They've been Visioneers from way back. That, in fact, is the title of their organization and of their book. Visioneers is alive with story. And originally, back in 1992, Des wrote their first The Visioneers book, as a fantasy, but a fantasy that could draw us together. And now their objective is to get us all working together to build our planetary story together and to merge share our visions. They've created a terrific opportunity for visionaries to join together and begin to create the vision that will draw us into our future. Joseph Campbell said that every society, the behavior of that society is much more determined by its myths and stories than by reality. And I realized back when I was working in Washington, D.C., lobbying Congress and all that it didn't matter how much you had facts and figures on your side. It's the story that determined behavior. And of course, and so often in Hollywood, we have that same old story of the hero with the big gun, that the poor damsel in distress is so victimized that finally, with superior violence, the hero blows away the bad guy and rides off in the sunset with the girl, and that's repeated over and over again, whether it's with the people of Ukraine or whoever it is, where we're always using violence to fight the bad guys, and it never works. It keeps failing. So let's talk to our visionaries about how we create a new vision. Please share us with us a little bit about your vision and about Pax Humana.
All right, maybe I'll start off because I wrote the book back in 1992, which is 32 years ago now, precisely because of what you've just been saying, Arthur. I was, familiar with the literature coming out about how the future was not going to be what we thought it would be. And it was pretty depressing stuff even back then. And so I thought to myself, well, what could I do? And I decided that I should write a story in which ordinary people came together and created a different vision for the world. And so they did that. And I was pretty audacious in what I did in getting them to work with the United Nations and all kinds of different adventures, because you can do that in a story. But in the end, they convened this Congress of the Global Mind, in which you had broadcasts coming in from these iconic centers around the world, like Tiananmen Square in China and Machu Picchu and Kilimanjaro and Jerusalem, and so the whole thing was a real kind of a mind fest of people saying, yes, we can do better than we've done, and we can create this wonderful future world. And the overarching question at the end, or not a question, but the overarching idea at the end was, why not? Why not be these magnificent human beings that we were meant to be and create a world like that? So that's the story, and along the way with that, we created an audio theater in which we told that story, and we rediscovered that 25 years later, and then decided to create the Visioneers Network, which is what we're working on right now.
On your story, as I read the ending, it sent a chill down my back, because I said, wow, this is so resonant with what I wrote in my story. Around that same period of time, I wrote a story called Oops. It started off with these satellites rotating in space. There's laser beams converging and shooting down incoming missiles from the Soviet Union, and they're shooting down missile after missile, but there's a huge barrage of missiles, and in the end, thousands of missiles go off at once. The entire planet explodes because it hits the default certain earthquake faults, and boom, we've got pieces of planets flying off into space. And then we hear this voice say, oops. And turns out we pull back from the screen, and this was supposed to be a depiction. It was the Pentagon showing off, and it was one of the military contractors showing off this simulation of the effectiveness of their terrific Star Wars machine, and it didn't quite work. And so they go, oops. Anyway, the story takes off from there with this young scientist and their amazing adventures and trying to pull together, and get through to a future that works. But it ends up at the end of the film, we see a similar scene where satellites come rotating around the Earth, and they start shooting these laser beams, and they start hammering the Earth with these laser beams converging. And we think, oh my God, what's happening? And it turns out that they are creating an incredible holographic image of the live Earth, the real live Earth, floating right over these major cities around the world. And some of the very ones you mentioned, like Tiananmen Square. And people are all gathered in the square, and they're out there seeing over their heads our real current Earth right now, floating there in this holographic image. And they're up there with telescopes. They can see themselves, their backyard. They can see people around the world. And this image, this living image of the Earth above us, helps converge people and bring them together. But I was thinking, a lot of similarity with your story, that why not create a world where instead of these satellites in killing ourselves, we actually create the world we choose.
I actually had much simpler technology because on Tiananmen Square, I had these thousands of children holding little battery-operated camera lights, and they wove this pattern of light across Tiananmen Square.
Beautiful, beautiful. Go ahead with what you were about to say, Gerri.
Okay, well, first of all, I'm delighted to meet all of you, albeit on the screen and into your living rooms and living spaces. And like to say that what we have is a personal invitation to each of you to participate in what the Visioneers project is now doing. And so what we say is, there's a lot of conversations going on in the world among people like us whose minds are open, and we need a place to actually go from the conversation to the action. And that's what the Visioneers are about. So this summer, we invited 10 of our leaders in our community to join what we called a collaboratory. And we talked about what we were going to do to act. And then we did it. And we created a new section on our website to celebrate what we call Pax Humana. The idea of this is that the world is so infused with bad news that it sort of puts people in a passive mode. And everybody says this should be done, this should be done, this should be done. But it never gets to the place of action. So what we've done is we've taken the next step. We invite you to go to our website and see the whole wide story. But we're interested in 3 basic things. First of all, we're interested in creating a community of people like you who are willing to act, to share, and to work with each other on good work. And all this is built around the idea of stories. And I was telling you a moment ago about the wall of stories. And so the second topic is global citizenship. And so just to show you that there's a lot of synchrony between what we're doing is 20 years ago, we had a conference here in Vancouver with Robert Mueller as the center of this piece. And we invited teams of children from all over the province coming in by bus with their teachers to listen in a beautiful library space and to have conversations and to do little action projects. And we gave them passports in global citizenship. And the idea here is that the whole thing about the Visioneers is about stories of action and good work. And we have created a virtual exposition on our website so that you can go to this exposition, you watch the stories. We're building what we call a wall of stories. And Robert Mueller is playing the ode to joy while the stories build. So now we have a community of about 1,100 people and leaders in 62 countries. It's just sort of happened to kind of almost, within 18 months, this whole thing has come together. And what we have done is we have put the action platform on our website under the button Pax Humana, the peace of humanity, where we're creating the vision of what peace could look like around the concept of a golden peace. And so we certainly invite
That's
you
beautiful.
to go to our website and see this.
We were joined by Barbara Mueller.
Yes, Barbara Mueller is on the call, and I understand
Barbara.
you were awarded their 2024 Peace Prize.
They're the only couple that ever got the Robert Mueller Peace Prize because of the work they're doing on the planet as a couple, because they are more than one when you are a couple of great intent.
We're having a little bit of a technical problem. Maybe I'll let you and Barbara talk a minute if she wants to chat with you, because she's worked with you in the past.
I met Gerri and Des in Canada when Robert was there to present his philosophy to the young people of the world. And he stood up there and he said, I can't do this all by myself. I need you. And recently I was reading a book, The Power of Intention by Wayne Dyer. And he kept saying, what you think is what you get. That's why I so admire Gerri and Des, because they think of a world that's going to work for all. And then their website allows them to show you how it can happen. I think their website is an encyclopedia of today's peace builders. I think when you go to their website, you'll see why I'm so enthusiastic about it, but it's overwhelming. If I didn't want to get overwhelmed, what would I do first to get into your website?
That's very simple, www.thevisioneers.ca. And that opens up to a homepage where there are three buttons, and one of them is Pax Humana, which takes you into the story we're about to see. And another one is our education on global citizenship, and you can get involved with that, and where we have 10 videos made by extraordinary people like Irvin Laszlo and Robert Mueller and others to give the basis for an education in global citizenship, which we're now introducing into schools. And we like to think that that's going to go around the world too. So, and there are platforms there like the Virtual Expo that Gerri was talking about.
You have a library too, right, Gerri?
Yes.
It's modeled on the ancient library of Alexandria, except we're doing it virtually.
I want to ask you a personal question. What's the magic to your relationship?
I'll let Gerri answer.
Oh, but that's a cop out here. I think we both have passion for the same things, and we get wound up in actually getting out there and doing this. And we celebrated our 35th anniversary this August, so this was our second shot at this. And I think I'm a neuroscientist, and I will tell you a secret, that there is nothing on this planet, no energy on this planet that gives us more ability to act and to be creative than a loving relationship. There is nothing like that. Barbara and Robert were a perfect example of this too. And it doesn't have to be just a couple. It can be a team of people, a championship people, a partnership like we're experiencing right now between Melanie and Arthur. And what we're trying to do is to capture that joy in this large community and introduce people to the stories of extraordinary people like them and give them the opportunity to contact them, to work with them, and to do all kinds of things that they couldn't do by themselves. So, that's your invitation.
Even, Gerri, to build on what you said, I even wrote a poem about Robert, how to be like Robert. And it starts in our mind. What are we thinking? And I go back to people who have been saying this for years, but why don't we get the message? Wayne Dyer, learning to co-create the world you want, learning to co-create the world you want. I've always felt people like Barbara Marx Hubbard, you and Des are co-creating the world we want, but how do we participate in this? Why don't you give us a little 2 minutes on that?
Well, that's what we're doing now with the Pax Humana concept. I'm really excited about this because after all of this time, when we've been putting out the vision and meeting people and so on, we've now got something that can be actually done. And my sense of it is that we've got to get the world talking about Pax Humana, talking about it, and using that as the framework for discussion about how we live on the planet. Irvin Laszlo says we've got to reinvent the way we live on the planet in his book, The Upshift. Well, that's exactly it. And Pax Humana, you have to have a concept before you can talk about something. So we've put that out now, the peace of humanity, and let's build it and do it together.
Barbara and Robert Mueller have certainly been a great inspiration to all of us. When you were showing the World Passport and all that, it reminded me that of how much Robert Mueller loved Gary Davis and mentioned how his stance in Strasbourg had helped spark Robert Mueller on his journey. Tell us a little bit more about your thoughts and reactions to reading Gary's book, My Country is the World.
Well, the thing that struck me, because I'm a fiction writer, and in fiction, you can create anything you want to, and that's what I did in my story. And I had people doing quite audacious things. But when I watched the story of Gary Davis, here he was, a real person doing audacious things, and that's really struck me as something quite extraordinary, because what he did was literally out of this world.
So I read the book and I kept getting these hits and saying, he's really talking to us right now. What he was doing was extraordinary, and in his time he was doing what was very important. But now the world is so much more complex that we need to work together to get an outcome. And we need to act in a way that's actually going to allow us to have the platforms to work together and to use our technology. Go to our website, see another little beautiful video that shows you how to act. And then right there following, you can act to march on the streets of the world, the Champs-Élysées, the streets in Barcelona. You can choose from 8 different streets, and you can actually get on the screen and you see yourself walking and marching, not in protest, but as a celebrant of peace and of humanity's good work. And that's what we need to do. We need to show that we're more than some of this awful things that the media is showing us today.
Wow. So tell us a little bit more about that virtual march. I think I find that like a very exciting idea. How do we have a virtual march of people from around the world?
Right. So we've set it up on the screen so that we've chosen 8 streets that you can march on, and the people are marching, and there's a place for you, and that you can affirm your celebration of humanity's goodness and the stories of goodness by marching on the street. And so just by clicking on one of the streets, there you are, right on the screen. Not your picture, but I mean, you can see where the whole thing works. And then if you click on another street, you can march on another street. And it's really, it's hard to describe the technology that allows you to join the community of marchers in celebration for peace. So within a half an hour, you can watch the video, you can see the instructions, and you can actually do it.
And of course, what this is a vision of what can happen in reality once the concept of Pax Humana starts to be known around the world. People will come out and march and say, yes, yes, yes to peace, yes to the concept of collaboration and cooperation and decency, and no to all of this other stuff that's going on.
So for the price of a click and a half an hour of your time, you can join this community, and we invite you to do that. So, and you can see the vision, because if you can't see it, you can't create it. And I think there's so many silos, and we're so separate and different from each other. And we seem to have so many different points of view that we can't see that we're all one, and that humanity is actually quite beautiful, extraordinary, and has done magnificent things. But until you see all these stories together in this wall of stories that you can visit, and until you take a walk, technically, down the corridor of these pavilions on the Virtual Expo, until you've done it, you don't have this common vision in your mind. And that's what we're showing in this 15-minute video. And this was what was shown on the International Day of Peace on September 21st by the Hubcast broadcasters. So that's all there. It's on YouTube and it's on our website.
So if Melanie's got that lined up. Pax Humana, the peace of humanity, song of celebration of the goodness of humanity. Out of the vast and magnificent universe was born the glorious diversity of life. Through continuous evolution, punctuated by upheaval and grand sweeps of creativity and achievement, it has become the reality of today. Let those of us who are privileged who know that we are part of such a blessing raise our voices in joyful celebration of all that is and yet can be. Let us proclaim Pax Humana, the peace of humanity and song of celebration of the goodness of humanity. Not in timid, stumbling steps, but in full stride of anticipation of all that is intended for us to become. We cry out to recognize the harmony and diversity of what we have inherited. We reject the failures of the past as forecast of the future. We put a tongue of praise in every bleeding wound and raise 10,000 flags for good in place of every evil act.
Wow, what an inspiration. I love what you created there. We're just very, very thrilled. So it's so great to be working together on an uplifting vision for the future. How do you see bringing new stories to the big screen.
Well, we need people like you, Arthur, who's in the business, to be the energy that makes that happen. I mean, my story's sitting there waiting for a film producer to produce it. So, and thousands of others like that. But instead, as you say, they produce all this other stuff because that's what people are thinking about. We got to get them thinking about Pax Humana, the peace of humanity, and then we'll start to make stories that reflect that. You know, peace in our communities, in our cities, between nations, stories of achievement and striving. I mean, we've got some of those stories, but they pale in comparison beside all of the other stuff. So we've just got to change the network, change the conversation. And this Zoom technology is a marvelous way to do that. And just spreading the word into all of our networks, you know, this is the way to do it, I think.
I think that one of the most important things in changing how we think is to tell a new kind of story. And maybe I'll just give you an example of one of the stories on the wall of stories. You get a sense of what a story can do in terms of action. So here's the story of a young man, his name is Aaron, who came to see me in my office in Vancouver. And I work with children and youth with learning differences. And he makes an appointment, sits down in front of me, and he looks at me and says, "Do you remember me?" So I look at him, a beautiful young man in his 20s, and I'm very poor at telling lies. I couldn't get away with it. So I said, "No, I don't." He said, "I was here at the Learning Center when I was in grade 3, and I was a complete failure in grade 3. And you taught me how to all of you taught me how to read and write." And I'll go very quickly here, but basically, he was a young man with learning disabilities who couldn't read. And not only did we teach him to read, but to learn. He graduated from high school, and then with an undergraduate degree from Good University, Queens in Canada, and a master's degree. And he's about to do his doctorate here in Vancouver when he has a gap year, and he goes traveling the way many young people do, traveling in Africa. And he's in this little village, and he sees that children are not going to school. So being very curious, he says, "Well, what's the problem?" And so they tell him that everyone has a job here. Every child has a job. They take a pail as big as they can carry. They go 2 hours, a 2 hours walk to the source of clean water and bring it back to the village, and every drop counts. So this young man is very enterprising, and he finds a way to dig wells in the village, which is a big help, but still the children are not going to school. So he comes back to Vancouver, and he's a techie kind of guy, and he gets young kids, teenagers from a local school to read children's stories into this app. And every time they say a word, it lights up on the screen. And he brings this app back to the village, and he gets containers, shipping containers that nobody wants, and makes doors and windows and old computers that are of no use to anyone anymore. He brings them into this space and puts his app on it. And he's basically teaching children to read. Well, last year, he was invited by the United Nations to work in this refugee camp with 250,000 people, no schools. And so he brought his app, and now they have a foundation where with millions of dollars that have been invested, and they're creating these schools out of the local balsa wood with solar panels for energy, and they're financing themselves by using this energy at night to charge cell phones. And basically they're teaching children to read. Well, last year he taught 35,000 children to read, and now they're in Pakistan and India, and Anderson Cooper gave them the Young Einstein Award. This kid is 25 years old. And what we do at the Visioneers is not only do we put his story, which is called the Walking School Bus, and now he has a foundation called the Simbi Foundation, but this story is part of the wall of stories, and it contributes to the 17 UN Sustainable Development in education and employment and poverty, in hunger, and he gets all these points there. And so you can go to the virtual expo and watch and learn about his story.
Fabulous. Well, it's so great to hear about some of these amazing young techies like that and the impact they can have, because really, in many ways, creating apps is the kind of disruptive technology that can solve the problem. One of the things that Gary Davis pointed out is that, by asking the existing nation state system, which is so broken, and which is our lines we've drawn on maps and then we, pretend they're real, asking them to fix the problem is very unlikely they're not going to reform the UN. They're not going to fix it because they get their power from creating a condition of fear that they're protecting us. The reality is there's a huge superpower waiting to express itself. There's humanity all over the world. Everyone, people have the same wants and dreams, and they're being forced apart by broken systems that pit us against each other. Once we find a way to create apps that can help us interactively bring out the highest and best wisdom of each person. Gary Davis talked about an app called SmartGov visualizing, where we have Zoom meetings like this, but instead of we have them across the divides of people on opposite sides of issues, and instead of trying to argue who's right and who's wrong, and instead of trying to exacerbate tensions as the current media likes to do, oh good, there's a fight. It's got a toolbox of things like that Barbara knows about, revolutionary conversations and getting the yes and the bully proof and some of these incredible conflict resolution technologies where people come together from opposite sides of issues and merge. There's a terrific number of people who are doing things like braver angels, bringing red and people who are Republicans and Democrats together, or there's amazing stories of Arabs and Israelis who've come together, or even of people whose family members have killed other family members, and then they've lost a son. And there's a powerful movie of a fellow whose son was shot in gang violence, and he and the gangster who killed his son travel around speaking together against gang violence and coming together. There are apps and there are ways that we can connect our humanity, and I think we can. One of the things we're talking to Rotary about is maybe a Zoom add-on that we could get working with the Carter School in Washington, D.C., which is part of the George Mason University School of Conflict Resolution, one of the most advanced in the nation. And we're going to be talking with them. We're going to have them on the podcast in January. We're going to be talking with them about having Rotarians help. Maybe we had some people who are interested in the Peace Global grants who could help us develop an app that helps us communicate. And such a key part of how we communicate is telling stories. That's why what you're doing is so important. One of the first steps is for people to hear each other's stories and listen, not to arguments about who's right or wrong, but what's your story? What brought you to here? And what's your vision for the future? And when the story and the vision are on the opposite sides of things, those bring us together to a unity in the middle. So I'd love to be in touch with your young Einstein and others who could collaborate in helping to evolve the tools and systems, the new kinds of platforms. We don't need the old kind of government with buildings and tanks and bombs. Violence is the weak force. The hugest empires can't beat the littlest countries like Vietnam or Afghanistan. They can try for decades and bomb and blow up, and they don't get anywhere. They don't succeed at all. And yet we keep doing that old failed technology. So we need to find these interactive ways of coming together as a planet. What are some of your thoughts about harnessing the creative power of our young techies in a positive direction rather than toward better ways to blow ourselves up?
We have a concept on our website, which is called Visioneers Leadership Circles. And what this is for three or more people to come together and decide on the project that they can do, either in their own community or like Aaron, internationally, what they can do to make a difference in the direction of Pax Humana. So what we want to do is have thousands and thousands of these leadership circles out there, and the world hearing about them, to get the mainstream media talking about that rather than the latest invasion in Afghanistan or Ukraine or whatever. That's the idea. You've got to have the concept to talk about and then act to make it happen. And this technology we're using today is great because we can talk to people everywhere and then just let them go at it as a Visioneers leadership circle.
Fabulous. Well, now we're going to turn to Melanie to take the question period.
Yay. Yes. Oh my goodness. Thank you, Arthur. And thank you so much for being here. Yes. Talk about a dynamic couple. Wow. And that was lovely what you said, Barbara. This is incredible. There's so much to their website. I want to just go ahead and share it real quick. Let me share this beautiful website. Look at this. Beautiful. And you'll see now we didn't get to watch the whole video, but if you click on Pax Humana right here, you will see the whole video that we didn't get to see, and this other video right here, incredible. And look at this. Decide to act. They're all about action. So here, what you can do right here. So just go to their website. You just go thevisioneers.ca. Now we're going to go to questions. So we're going to go back to Barbara. Barbara, go right ahead with your question or comment.
When I go to your website, is there a place where I can enter my ideas?
Yeah, the first thing to do is to join, become a Visioneer, and that puts your that gives you an opportunity to put up your profile, your ideas, what you want to do, and it's all there. And then other people can read that, and if they're interested, they can contact you and so on.
Because we feel that the way to share is to tell stories of good work, and we give people awards for that. The idea is to come in and join and tell your story, but then as a Visioneer, you have the opportunity to turn the camera to your own community and to say, who in my community is worthy of an award? And you probably know several of them. And then all you have to do is nominate them for an award and send them through our system. And lo and behold, we have extraordinary people on our website, hundreds of extraordinary people that you recognize. And the way we have created this global citizenship course is we invited 10 of them to be interviewed or give us a legacy video of 1 hour, and we've created multiple choice tests and all these sorts of things. And we're starting our global citizenship course for children, for 17, 18-year-olds, as a way of getting credits for entering for university. And our pilot study is beginning in January. And once we have this, it's based on an each one teach one concept. We're going to be twinning the course so that everyone who gets a little diploma for having done the course can become a teacher, because all the material is right there on the website. And we're going to be twinning with schools in Ukraine and in Africa and everywhere in the world. So if you have a school in your community, in an indigenous community, that you want to get the wisdom of these extraordinary people, all you have to do is introduce them to the website and nominate them. And here's our idea, that if each of you looks at your own community and says, I have 3 people I know would really enjoy or benefit or be inspired from this, and you share this, and you tell them that one of their jobs, your job is when you're a visioneer, is to share and to tell stories. So if each of these three people share, then it doesn't take very long before hundreds of minds are open to these new stories. And that's how we can change the world, by telling these new stories, all different kinds. We're so varied, and we have such wonderful ways of acting, whether it's through the arts, through music, through film documentaries, or actual actions like I told you about Aaron.
Mhm.
And so this is open to you. And see how Barbara's question has said, what do you do with this? Well, you need to make some commitment in time, but it's all easy. It's right there on the screen in front of you, and you have our invitation personally to you to come and be part of this community and actually act.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Goodness sake. Oh, and we better move to the next question. We have 3 more questions. Jack, go right ahead with your question or comment.
Yes, I'd like to say hello to my neighbors. I'm from Peachland and I'm in Kelowna right now. So Gerri and Des, hello as a neighbor. Absolutely fantastic work that you're doing. I've created through a seed of a thought the idea, I'm a Rotarian, but that all people for every Rotarian, there's 6,700 other people. So when you as a Rotarian show them what you do, and that you would really ask for their help, okay? So the foundation I created was called Hour for Hour, that we could all afford 1 hour of income if we knew that it was going to go to a group with great integrity, transparency, and stewardship, to do great projects in their communities for free. They work for free. So you take the dollar and it becomes 10, right? It's not like government, right? Government's the opposite of that on there. But when you get Rotarians, and where I need help right now is that my club in Kelowna has taken on this idea, and they're funding 3 projects, which could easily be Pax Humana. 3, they're sending medical equipment to the Ukraine to help the little girl that's been dismembered or burnt. They're supporting kids who are great at what they do, whether they play the violin or they dance or they sing. We took over the 100-year-old performing arts from the Kiwanis because they were aging out. And then we are doing a lot of education around what are we doing to our pollinators? Never mind ourselves. What are we doing to the butterfly, to the hummingbird, to the bat there? So just my small club is doing those 3 projects funded by the idea of Hour for Hour. And I want to say on the partnership level, I believe that as a couple, and I've learned that over my 50-year marriage, and I had a beautiful wife who passed 7 years ago, and she was a saint in this town and did an amazing amount of good. And but what I've really learned to teach my children and grandchildren is that when you are married or in a relationship, cut a little space and grace for each other. Realize that you're just human and that each of you may say or do the wrong thing from time to time. And if you'll cut that space, you have no idea how good your marriage could be. No idea how good a brother and sister could be. No idea how 2 business partners could be. If they'll just see that humanity and cut a little space and grace, and 2 world leaders. So I really think that the peace from within is just acknowledge being human, cut a little space for it because we're not perfect. But when you do that and you listen and you stay together, you do not turn your backs on each other, you do not quit discussing things, you work together as you are such an evidence of that. I will definitely join your organization, and I know that your concept of 3 leadership is a fantastic idea.
And tell us those 3 stories, and we'll put them up on the website.
We have
Okay.
special youth awards for young people who are doing that. And the thing I liked about what you say is about how the Rotary acts. We think that Rotary clubs should know about Pax Humana. How can we tell them about it? That's your job.
Yeah, that's our job. Yeah, and it's a great vehicle. So they are looking for those kind of vehicles. So I think this is going to happen.
Wonderful. What a great connection and what great advice we're getting about connecting with others and working with each other and loving each other. That's beautiful. Now, really quick, David Gallup, go right ahead.
Yeah, hi. Thanks so much, Gerri and Des, for all that you're doing with Visioneers to engage this idea of global or world citizenship. I work at the organization that Gary Davis founded. I've been here almost 33 years promoting world citizenship, and I'd love to partner with you because I think your course on global citizenship is amazing. But then what we could do to follow through with it is to allow students to create their own world citizen clubs. In fact, World Service Authority, where I work, along with Citizens for Global Solutions and the Young World Federalists, we are already establishing high school and university campus world citizen clubs. In fact, we have one on the campus of George Mason University that Arthur was mentioning that has that peace and conflict resolution school. So I would see what the purpose of a world citizen club is to allow young people to become peacemakers and to bring the idea of world citizenship locally to their community, to their school, and to engage in activities, not just educational ones and advocacy ones, but even fun ones that can bring in this idea of world citizenship to their local community. So anyway, I would see that as a great component in addition to the courses that you have. Students can then take that from that and then launch their world citizen clubs on their campuses like we're already starting to do. So anyway, we have a website, worldcitizenclub.org. So that would be where you could go to find it. And of course, I'm going to join the Visioneers now that I know I could do that. And then I'd love to interact with you further in the future.
Terrific. We would love to do that.
I'd love to talk to you about the World Citizenship course because you can, through your organization, offer it to any organization around the world. And then we're giving these kids at the end one of these passports on global.
That's amazing.
So you can make it yours by
I love it.
By offering it.
2 more questions. Quanta, go right ahead.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate your efforts to make a peaceful world. As a world citizen, I consider myself a cell of the body of humanity. Humanity is stricken with cancer, and that cancer is war. So how can we prevent cancer and cure it once it attacks our body of humanity? All the efforts that thousands and literally thousands of organizations with billions of dollars that they have, what they can do to consolidate their dollar and power so that we prevent cancer attacking humanity, so that beautiful little children, thousands of them, are not killed by our tax dollars. Thank you.
Okay, well, you've raised two important points. One is the scourge of war, and so I suggest you go and have a look at our website on the components of creating the golden peace, and you will see as you go into the virtual expo, you will see a rainbow array of 9 different corridors or human activities that you can participate in, and one of them is in health and wellness, and you can go along there and you can put in you can see what's going on in that area by just clicking, and the site will create for you a guided tour of all the stories with regard to doing things for health. So that's one issue, and I mean we could talk about the immune system and what has to be done, but that's another story. But going beyond war is very, very key to saving the planet and to doing everything. And I think that what is missing out there is what a vision of peace could be. And so I think that one of the great contributions you could make is by spreading the concept of what a golden peace looks like. And it's so huge. It's like if you were asked to vote for something that was wonderful and that made you feel good versus something that is so diminished, wouldn't you try to do that? And it offers every citizen the opportunity to participate themselves either in the learning part of it, in sharing part of it, in helping people get awards, but also in going into all these various stories just by a click and hearing about all these wonderful things. And you'll find some solutions to the questions that you're asking.
Beautiful. And then Barbara Ledger, you're next, you're last. Go ahead.
Oh my goodness, what an amazing program. I was supposed to be in a meeting with a board member this morning, and instead I sent her the link. And so I'm so glad to be here. What you have done, what you are doing, Gerri and Des, it's just extraordinary. It fits into the vision of everything my life is about. And I created a Visioneers Labyrinth many years ago, and I would love to send it to you. And it's about how to do visioning for the reality we want, using walking a labyrinth. And I do it with groups, and it's so exciting. And so that's one little tiny thing. Buckminster Fuller said, you don't change reality by fighting against it. If you want a new reality, create a new model that makes the old one obsolete. And your model, as well as, I mean, Arthur, what you and Melanie, what you're doing, that's a model. What our organization is called the Golden Path of Peace. We work in Ukraine. We are actually, bringing children into becoming peace builders, 6 years old, 7 years old, bringing them the simple vehicles to know how to seize a moment and shift their consciousness from reaction to peace. We're creating a curriculum that works in the bomb shelters. This week, we're transforming our program because they're not in the classrooms in Ukraine right now. They're all in the bomb shelters. And it's just an amazing world to connect with other people like you. And Barbara Mueller, you're such a networker. I just love all of this. I mean, I love what you're doing, Arthur, and the people that you're bringing. And Melanie, your enthusiasm and encouragement is so great. And all of them are parts of this model and this humanity that is learning to love itself into wellness. And I'm so grateful for everything this morning. Just so grateful.
So Barbara, I'm expecting you to become a Visioneer because you're already one. And just when you do, you can contact us, tell us your story, and let's hear about it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we start. But you have a network too, and I'm so thrilled that you send the link to your colleague. That's exactly what we want people to do, to just come on deck,
right?
Become part of this and do the work. Okay, so we have spent an hour together. It can do like the Rotary, multiply 10. If each of you go to the website and give yourself time to experience it, become a Visioneer yourself, tell us your stories, tell us what is going on in your community, like Barbara and Jack and all Kathy we haven't yet heard, but join the Visioneers, and then then do your job, like send the link out to somebody and say, you really have to look at this, and tell us who deserves an award, and we'll invite them to tell their stories. So that's what I'd like to say. It's an extraordinary opportunity. Kathy, Portland is just up the road here from Vancouver, and Kelowna is about the same distance in the other direction. It really is a world where it's easy for us to be together in this way. But just talking is not enough now.
What Gerri is saying is so important, and we have to know that it's a matter of life and death. Right now is the moment. This is critical. This is the bifurcation point. This is the time for humanity to stand up as a collective and save itself. So
thank you so much. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for being here with us. And quickly go back to Arthur. Arthur, go ahead and take it away.
Well, thank you so much. This has been really phenomenal. And we'll see everyone next week on the People Powered Planet podcast.
World citizen, lift up your voices. Oh, you know we got something to say. All we need is the same directions, heading in one way.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to our channel and like this video.